Hello, my name is Erica Lamaig, and my freestyle artifact project was based on the event, the Dust Bowl Exodus during the 1930s, where I'll be featuring two artifacts. One is a letter and one is a song. So before discussing those two artifacts, I'm going to provide you some background information to kind of help you understand those artifacts better. So the Dust Bowl Exodus refers to the plain states like Oklahoma that experienced their migration loss of roughly 500,000 people as they were headed to California. During the Great Depression, a combination of factors including low crop prices and high machinery costs prompted farmers to expand agricultural production onto submarginal lands, neglecting soil conservation practices in the 1920s. Neglecting these practices led to soil erosion, setting the stage for the Dust Bowl exodus. At the same time, the nation was reeling from economic hardship following a market crash, while the first of four major drought episodes struck the central region. Federal aid was slow to come as the first funds received for drought relief not arriving until 1933. The Dust Bowl exodus was a period of severe dust storms and drought that affected the Great Plains regions. As a result, from the poor soil conditions, Oklahoma and neighboring states experienced unsustainable farming and could no longer support a livelihood for themselves. Families from the Dust Bowl sought opportunities elsewhere, with California becoming a primary destination due to its reputation for agricultural abundance and economic prosperity. So at the top of this website or slash article I've created, I've provided some video images to kind of visualize what's being referred here. So this image shows a car. It will present to be someone traveling by car to migrate away from the Dust Bowl, and you can kind of see how dense these dust storms were. This is also most of the migrants or some of their modes of transportation were also by wagons, and then some of them unfortunately with no access to either wagons or by with cars, they had to walk. And then this is a picture of migrant workers from the Dust Bowl working alongside Filipino and Mexican farmers in California as some of the jobs that they found. And then below, I have also provided some other images. On the top left is to help you understand or like visualize how eroded and how unsustainable the soil conditions were. And then the top right is an image of a dust storm that's closing in on a Kansas town. And then the bottom left is just a picture of a farm in the Dust Bowl region, so what some of them look like. And then the bottom right is just a picture of a family from the Dust Bowl region to kind of visualize how the economic climate was really poor, and considering the fact it was also during the Great Depression, and how these families were kind of an economic crisis as well as their housing situations. And then transitioning to my first artifact is a letter titled "Letter to My California Dreamer, Leaving the Dust Bowl for the Promise of Work." I'm just gonna read the contents of the letter and then discuss them. So it starts off, "Dear grandparents, your story started in 1936, shortly after being married in rural Oklahoma. Grandpa, you were 22, and Grandma, you were 18. Between the two of you, you had no dime. No one had a dime. Just a hope and a dream that there was something and somewhere better than the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma. You told me you paid a smuggler to get you two into California. You were both Americans, but in 1936, the Los Angeles Police Department briefly established a bomb blockade to ban Dust Bowl migrants from entering the state. You had your eyes set on Oakdale and the San Joaquin Valley, where you had family and the promise of work. Without a car, horse, or wagon, only the clothes on your back, you jumped trains out of Oklahoma. You said it was a good way to travel then, that people looked out for each other. You sometimes would walk back roads, looking for work in exchange for a meal. Grandma, you told me of the sweet woman that took pity on you because you were so thin. She put Grandpa to work and fed you in the kitchen. You ate as much as you could. You laughed at that memory. When you arrived in Oakdale, your sister and brother-in-law gave you a home. You said you were lucky to have a family there because many ended up in migrant camps with no running water. Often when I drive over it and how you told me it was the worst road ever built, I agree, but I know the curves slow down, so don't worry. For the next decade, you finally worked all over the country. Grandpa, you even worked on the Panama Canal. Finally, the two of you made Oakdale your permanent home for you and your 5 children. Grandparents, the California dream delivered you from poverty to middle class. For me, the California dream is pride in my state. It's a state of many cultures, diverse landscapes, bountiful farmland, and world-changing industries. I am proud to be Californian and your granddaughter. Love, Kimberly. So from the letter, we can see that is a letter kind of directed towards her grandparents and to just everyone, just talking about her grandparents' experience. So Kimberly's grandparents, as mentioned, were smuggled into California in hopes to secure a job to have a livelihood, and many migrants had to smuggle their way into California because LA police at the time set up a bomb blockade. This blockade was established as an effort to keep out the undesirables. The main motive to keep out the migrants from the Dust Bowl was because they would be competing for jobs that the longtime residents of California were competing for. In addition, the job market is already scarce because of the Great Depression. On the other note, Oklahoma natives were seen as criminals, uneducated, and dirty by the California natives, which factored into the implementation of the bomb blockade. Most migrants worked in shipyards and aircraft factories to supply the war effort at the time. And many migrants, like Kimberly's grandparents, left everything but just the clothes on their back for the journey to California. Some had cars, wagons, and horses for transportation, while others had to walk. And some also, like Kimberly's grandparents, had to rely on train surfing as their means for transportation. For those who got through the bomb blockade, the most common places to stay at when you arrived to California were either a relative's place or migrant camps that often didn't have running water or sanitation. Nonetheless, these migrants persevered through an effort to find an opportunity elsewhere to gain a livelihood, and Kimberly's grandparents found that in Oakdale, California. I've also provided some images of some of the stuff that was referenced in the letter, such as like this family resting on train tracks, as they would probably have used train surfing as a way to get to California. This is a map. So the red outlines this route called Route 66, where is the most common route that migrants from the Dust Bowl took to get to California. And then this is a picture. It's called Weed Patch Camp, which is one of the migrant camps that was referred in or referenced in the letter. And there's also a car, as some of the migrants had a car, and so they were able to use their car to travel to the west. And then, unfortunately, if you didn't have a horse, a wagon, or a car, or didn't have the opportunity or a chance to train surf, you had to walk barefoot. And then transitioning to my second artifact is a song called Arizona by Jack Bryant. I have a video available to listen to, but I'm just going to quickly read the lyrics of the song. We were out in Arizona on the painted desert. We had no place to call our home, and work could not be found. We started to California, but our money hit didn't last long. I want to be in Oklahoma, be back in my old home. Always out on the desert where water's hard to find. It's 100 miles from Tempe, and the wind blows all the time. You will burn up in the daytime, yet you're cold when the sun goes down. I want to be in Oklahoma, be back in my hometown. You people in Oklahoma, if you ever come west, have your pockets full of money, and you better be well dressed. So Arizona by Jack Bryant. So Jack Bryant, being a migrant himself, as some of the migrants were also musicians and had instruments with them as they traveled through. The video is an audio of him singing with his guitar. So here we can see and tell that Jack Bryant is expressing his emotions and experiences and what it was like to migrate through and what it was like getting to California. So he mentioned that he's traveling 1,000 miles from their home to Oklahoma. So when he referenced to Tempe, it's like roughly 1,000 miles from Oklahoma being his home. So you can just kind of grasp like he only just had 1,000 miles, and he had many more to come. So you can kind of tell, or kind of maybe grasp, the physical and mental toll it took on him while migrating. And then as he finally arrived to the intended destination, California, but his financial situation remained unchanged, and this just made him want to go back to Oklahoma. And then as he migrated through the Dust Bowl region to get to California, he experienced scarce water, very hot days, and also very cold nights while traveling through the desert. And he experienced more discomfort from the continuous blowing of dust and sand while traveling across the Dust Bowl. And once he got to California, he described it to the other people that's migrating from the Dust Bowl region, that the West demands you to be well dressed and financially set. So this is kind of referring to the bum blockade, as it was kind of set up to keep out the migrants because they had a very negative perception of them. In summary, these two artifacts reflect the experiences, impacts, and sacrifices of the Dust Bowl migrants. Arizona by Jack Bryant does an amazing job to capture what was going on during the Dust Bowl exodus and how people were impacted by it. Jack Bryant's songs reflects the attitudes and hardships of the Dust Bowl migrants as they journeyed through the Great Plains, as he was also a migrant. And Arizona became a significant song to these migrants because they resonate with the message of the song. Whereas the letter artifact, being published in 2019, shed lights on the everlasting impact of the migrants from Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl exodus. It reveals how significant the sacrifices of the migrants were as they suffered a long journey to get away from the hazardous Great Plains. And this letter portrays the hard work, the dedication, and perseverance of the many migrants during the Dust Bowl exodus. So in some of that, I also have a few images that are relating to the Dust Bowl. So on the top left, it is a shipyard, shift exchange in California. So as many migrants arrived in California, most of them found jobs in either shipyards or in agriculture. So this is just showing shift exchange for that. And then the top right is our three kids, seems to be near the Dust Bowl region where they experienced the hazardous dust storm, so they had to wear masks and eyewear to protect themselves from it. And then in the middle picture, the sign says no jobs in California, keep out. This is like an example of the bum blockade that California set up. And then the last image is an illustration to kind of visualize how severe and how drastic the dust storms were. And as you can see, the houses and tractors are buried.